is over.
This is the NWA World Must-See Television Champion Outlandish Zicky Dice, and you're listening to the Insiders Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Insiders Podcast. We are so thrilled to have you with us today. And first of all, let me just say, I want to thank everybody who joins us on a regular basis. If you are new to our video and to our podcast, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe, because you are in for a treat with some of the things we've got out there. Interviews. Not only do we do this podcast every week, but we have interviews as well with so many names. Thunder Rosa, Zicky Dice from the NWA. We had Nikita Koloff, the legendary Nikita Koloff. We had Gary Cassidy, who is a wrestling journalist. So many names out there and so many great interviews. If you are new to the channel, please check those out. And again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and join us all the time. And also, if you can't get us on YouTube and you want to hear us on your drive to work, listen to it on any podcast system out there: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Anchor. Any of those will all have this as well. So again, thank you guys for joining us. Jeff, welcome. And man, we have got, again, our J&J's Hot Topic. Welcome, Jeff. What's up, man? How was your week?
It was a very, very interesting week, to say the very least.
Yes, we've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, with having tornadoes go through the area last week, it knocked my power out for a while, and that's why we had to delay the podcast a few days. And but yeah, things are kind of back to normal now. Actually just finished shopping for everything in the refrigerator and freezer, so we now have food in the house again. So we're rocking and rolling.
There you go. Awesome to hear, buddy. That's awesome to hear. I'm glad you're getting back on track. So obviously, we put the podcast out around Wednesday, last week, Wednesday or Thursday. I can't even remember when. But the big story, and, we have to touch on this because this was huge last week. I know Daze did a stream for it, and the stream was just very, very heart-wrenching and somber thing. And we're not going to harp on that. We're just going to review a little bit for you. And I did send out some polls on the subject as well for the community. So we want to read those out for you guys and your reactions to all this. But obviously, we're talking about the cuts, the cut downs that WWE made. Kind of heard rumors about it, heard that it was coming, heard that it could be up to 40% of the roster. And there were so many rumors flying around. Jeff and I know we pay attention a lot to what Gary Cassidy has to say, because Gary is very in the know, and he's very trustworthy source. So we watch to see what he is saying, and we watched it all unfold. So yeah, Jeff, what did you think? I mean, what was your reaction to all the cut downs?
Obviously heartbreaking. Just as one word that excuse me, what I felt initially is just heartbreaking for the performers, the wrestlers that got let go, the producers that were furloughed or let go. You see someone like Mike Chioda, who has been with the company since the late 80s, I believe, as a referee, and to see him let go was very difficult. And it's just a sad realization of where we are right now in the world, and the effects that this virus has on the whole world at this point. It's not just an isolated thing. It's everywhere. It's impacting everyone. So to see that was very, very heartbreaking. And to see some of the wrestlers that were let go, it was very surprising. You see guys like Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, Leo Rush, Drake Maverick. You hate to see that, because those guys were somewhat involved in different storylines. I think the one thus far that, two thus far that really stood out to me aside from those guys were EC3 and Rusev. With EC3, he hasn't been on television in, I, I don't know, probably 6 months at this point. And, and I feel like he's such a good talent, and I just don't think they ever figured out what to do with him after the call up from NXT. And then you get a guy like Rusev, who the fans love him, and he's always found a way to get over, even when WWE probably didn't utilize him in the way that they should have or could have. And to see him go was a difficult one, and just really heartbreaking to see those things. And Drake Maverick's video, oh my goodness, that was the most sincere, heartfelt, depressing video I think I've seen, because here you have a guy who just days earlier announced that his excitement about being in the cruiserweight tournament, the interim championship tournament, and then days later he's being let go. And it's just unfortunate. And I think what people need to understand is, while some of these wrestlers will be signed other places, and let me go ahead and give you guys a spoiler alert, not all of these people are going to end up in AEW. But some of these folks will be signed other places, but a handful of these folks may not see the level of notoriety that they got from being involved with the WWE. They may not get that ever again, because I just, some of them I just don't think they'll make it on TV anywhere. So I definitely wish them the best. And this is right now in wrestling, there are so many different promotions, so many different options. So I hope that all of these people end up somewhere, but I really feel bad for them. So Joe, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, it was a really, really tough day. And I know I was listening to Dave's stream, and it was really surreal, because everything he was mentioning, you'd see one name, and then you'd see another name, and then you got a couple groups of names. And it was, as it was going on, you started to see people in the chat in the community were just shouting out new names that they heard. And oh man, it was just a horrible thing. I mean, I know on a personal level, I got a call from my employer that same day. And I have said to Jeff, I think April 15th was some sort of day. I don't know what it was exactly. Maybe you guys in the community know, but I don't know what it was exactly. But I think for corporate America, I think it was a date that was either, I don't know, maybe that these companies had until the 15th of April to keep people on. Maybe they had until, some sort of insurance that lasted until that date. I'm not sure, but it seemed like there was a lot of big companies on that date that they had either stopped paying people, or that they had to stop paying people and they let people go. So again, a personal experience on my part. A lot of my coworkers were furloughed, and so it was sad. Like you said, the Drake Maverick video was heartbreaking. Just such raw emotion that he showed. And, we talked to Brandi from the community last night, and she mentioned, and you guys will hear a tease from her interview, she mentioned that, look, it's heart-wrenching, when you hear these things, from these wrestlers that, you think it's their dreams being broken. This is their dream to make it to the WWE, and the fact that they got there, and maybe they're never going to win a title or anything like that, but they're still there. They're still employed, and they made it, right? They made it to that pinnacle. And now, because of a virus, because of this horrendous thing going on, now they're done. They lost that opportunity. And like Jeff said, man, they can't all be taken by other companies. That's the sad fact of the matter. Number one is there's no indie wrestling right now, guys. There's no indie wrestling. So we talk to indie wrestlers. We talk to Will all day. We talk to, some other indie people, and they're not doing anything either. So these indie companies are even smaller than the big companies. They can't afford to bring new people on. And maybe one or two of these guys, like I think Eric Rowan is fine. I think he'll find his way to somewhere, whether that be with the Dark Order and AEW or something like that. He's a big man, and big men are always in demand. So I think he'll find his way. I think, Zack Ryder might find his way somewhere because he's got some friends in the business. So I think some of them will be okay. But listen, the sad fact of the matter is a lot of these guys they're not going to be back. And, it was really heartbreaking. Let me read out a couple of your comments because I threw a poll out there for you guys. And basically the poll said, do you feel the releases today were necessary to save the $4 million a month for WWE to survive during the virus? Tell us your reasons below. And you guys overwhelmingly responded, no, find another way. I gave the no, I gave the yes. It was harsh, but it was needed. And other explain why. So it was 56-37. Find another way. No. And then let me just read off some of your comments. I had Craig Mosty. He said no, because Vince could have avoided this by shutting things down, but instead got the governor of Florida to deem WWE as essential, and something shady went down with that. WWE paying stupid money to Brock, Fury, Ronda, Goldberg, Gronk, Kane, etc. surely played a part as well. And by the way, this is a great teaser. So in a little bit, after a couple of segments here, Jeff and I are gonna talk about that top 10 Forbes WWE salary list that was released. So oddly enough, that this came out a few days later, and we'll talk about that. I know Jeff's got an opinion on that one as well. Kofi Essential 6195, man, shout out to you. He sends us a lot of stuff. He said, I don't think all the hate should be put on Vince and WWE. It's way more to do with Trump and the governments and state governments for knowing about a disease outbreak that has been predicted for multiple years and not doing anything about it and being bribed money to risk people. Hey, you never know, man. These things can certainly be the cause of a lot of things. So, we have a comment from Daydreamer Pictures, Jeff Delaney. Shout out to Jeff. Jeff is the guy who designed our logo.
Yes.
So shout out to you, buddy. He says within that, he says the WWE is not like other businesses who have employees. WWE has contract labor, meaning that they work by a contract with certain stipulations, not hourly or salaried. They don't get benefits, insurance, or anything like that. They get the contract paid plus endorsements. And he said within that contract, one or both parties have clauses that allow them to terminate contracts at any time for any reason. All this is no different. It's not like Vince can slip them bonuses into their time card slots right now. These are the breaks, regardless of the severity. And then lastly, we have PB Green. PB, shout out to you. Difficult decisions, I'm sure. Not what happens with all this when the air clears, but you can't cut the top draw or else you lose everything. Even if the top draw is part-time, they bring in what they are paid. Hopefully furlough means they return. So that's just a few of the comments from there, and I can come back to a few more a little bit later. But yeah, man, it was tough, and it was really tough. I know you've got an opinion because a lot of people are saying that, hey, I know you responded to a person in chat saying that, hey, just get rid of Goldberg, stop paying Goldberg, or stop paying Brock Lesnar, and you're good to go. But that's not necessarily the case.
No, it's not that simple. When you look at it, it's overall budget, overall financial workings of the company, and getting rid of Goldberg because he makes an astronomical amount of money. On its face, you think, yeah, just get rid of the guys that make the most. But Goldberg is a draw. Brock Lesnar is a draw. They pay these people those salaries for a reason, and getting rid of one or two of them doesn't get them to the threshold that they need to be to in order to sustain the company. And I want to go back to the comment I believe Kofi made it about, not piling on Vince and all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that, because you have to look at it from this standpoint. Yes, Vince over the years has hoarded talent, and they're just buried. And some you never see on television, others you see every now and again. So I get that. I get where you're coming from with that. But this is about a business decision. And Vince McMahon is not the only billionaire that owns a company that had to let people go.
Mm-hmm.
And I want people to understand that for the Eric Rowans and Drake Mavericks and Rusevs of the world, while we know them, there are people out there, everyday people like me and Joe and all of you that are listening, that have lost jobs, that have been furloughed, and we can't blame the employer for doing that. It's just the nature of where the economy is right now.
Right.
And in order for the WWE to sustain its business, they had to make some really hard decisions. I guarantee you that they didn't want to get rid of the amount of people that they have so far. And, you know, I feel like Vince probably didn't want to do that. But when it comes down to it, it's either we can keep paying this exorbitant amount of payroll, or we can cut back and sustain the company. And I don't think it was a matter of just shutting everything down, because at that point you have nothing coming in. So it probably would have been even more drastic than what we just saw this week, which is mind blowing to even say that. But I just think we have to look at things from a real perspective. And I promise I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but as fans, it's important that when we're looking at stories about this, we're looking at reliable journalists, reliable people that have an inside knowledge of what's going on, that have sources within the company that report on things in a fair and equitable way. I know there are a lot of folks out there, a lot of journalists, and people can't see me, but I'm using air quotes right now. A lot of journalists out there who absolutely despise the WWE. They want to see the WWE fail for one reason or another, and they don't always report accurately. They report it in a way that makes people want to turn on Vince and turn on the WWE, and that's their prerogative. But what I'll say to our listeners is that if you really want to get some real information, there are a handful of journalists out there. Joe, you mentioned Gary. Obviously, we love Gary. Sean Ross Sapp is another one. But actually find reliable people that report on this stuff, other than looking at one or two. And I'm not even going to mention their names because they're not worth my breath. But actually just go out and look for real places. Either go to the WWE website itself, or if you want to DM me or DM Joe or just look at our feed, I can guarantee you that you'll see the people that are reliable when it comes to reporting this news.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And I know Daze said this in his stream too, because there's just so many names coming and that people are just getting name after name saying Roman was cut, saying Shinsuke was cut, saying, you know, guys, listen, yeah, especially in a time and something like this. I mean, rumors can really be harmful. You know, there's so many of them out there every day with wrestling and everything like that. And yeah, some of them just go by the wayside, but in a situation like this, they can be harmful. And, you know, so wherever these people were getting all that stuff, obviously it wasn't true. And so, yeah, definitely that's a great piece of advice, man. And if you guys ever need anything with that, again, like Jeff said, check out Gary Cassidy on Twitter, check out our site, because we're not going to retweet stuff that we think is garbage or is rumors or anything like that. So absolutely. Let me just get a couple more of the comments in here. PB again says, PB Green, reality is we've barely seen the cuts on TV as it is. There are space fillers or hype characters, makes you miss the regional days. Yeah, good point.
Yep.
They could have had different things to do, obviously. We have adopt-only 626 road politics. The McMahons need heavy cash flow to move around. Presidential election year, perfect time to hide behind the disease, to get rid of employees and to loosen up some cash, in my opinion. Okay, yeah. Different opinions, different people. Fiend Fan writes, they could have released Gronk and Goldberg and been okay. Monica King writes, I really feel there was another way to do this, like lowering salaries, selling pay-per-views or something. Releasing wrestlers that have given their life to the company probably isn't a good way to go. But what do I know? I will always be a supporter for the rest of my life, but this hurts. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jaden Dodd writes, thing that annoys me is that this happened and phenomenal talent has been released, but I guarantee, and he wrote that in capitalization, when a Saudi show comes along, Goldberg booked, Lesnar booked, Taker booked, Rousey booked, possibly on Ronda. I think that's disgraceful in my opinion. All right. The Penfall writes, it's kind of tough to justify when they received $1 billion deal for SmackDown alone 7 or 8 months ago, not to mention money from other shows and sponsorships. Feels like they kept talent just to stop them from going to AEW, and now money has spoken louder than their competition ever could. James Chadwick writes, it's a sad day for the WWE, but people worldwide are losing their jobs too. And we are living in hell right now. Very good point, James. Very good point. And lastly, Ain't No Dumb Blonde writes, when you're running a business, you evaluate your situation and make the best decision for your bottom line. That's how the business works. The best decision for the bottom line does not always mean the best decision for the people. Wow. Awesome comment. And Jeff alluded to that earlier. And like I said, personal to me, I work for a large company in the United States. And yes, that is absolutely what happened. I said it wasn't just the WWE that got this, and a lot of cuts were made across the thing. Look, guys, it is a sad time for a lot of people, right? Could be worse. And I know, listen, this isn't all doom and gloom. It's making people do things that are out of their comfort zone. Staying in the house all the time is definitely not something that appeals to everyone, especially if you're social. So it is a very rough time for everybody. I understand that. And and the wrestling community felt it definitely this week. I have another poll that we put out there too. I'll read a little bit later. That was where, is this really going to hurt the WWE long term? And I think I posed this question to Jeff a little bit. I talked to him about this earlier in the week as well. But right now, so let's get on a little bit of a happier topic here. And we've got some teasers coming up for you guys, right? So 2 again this week. We had 2 fantastic interviews, and our first teaser is Outlandish. That's the only way I can describe this teaser, because that's the only way I can describe this interview. Outlandish. Jeff, we interviewed the Outlandish Zicky Dice, man. What were your thoughts of the Outlandish one's interview?
I was a fan of his before we interviewed him, and after, I'm even more of a fan of his, not just from what he does in the sport of professional wrestling, but on a personal level because of work that he's done outside of wrestling. So I'm a really big fan of his, and really glad that we got a chance to speak with him and really start with his journey and talking about his going into wrestling. And for those of you that don't know, and I'm going to give this away, so hopefully no one's mad at me, but he was actually trained by Seth Rollins.
Yep.
So that, that gives you an idea of, the level that he trained at, and to see his success thus far has been impressive. But I really see big things in the future for Zicky Dice.
I agree, man. It was an awesome interview. We got some questions from you guys, which he answered as well. So Zicky Dice teaser coming right at you. And this interview will debut after the NWA content on Tuesday, because you've got Adam Rotella's Stranger that starts at 5 o'clock. Then it goes into Daze's NWA stream, which is going to have the first new episode of NWA we've seen in a while, where Camille actually speaks and has her first match. So that's exciting stuff. So make sure you tune in for that. If you aren't watching NWA, you're missing out. It's great stuff. Reminds you of the good old days of wrestling, and it's fun to watch. So join Daze stream for that. And then Adam does a post-stream show as well. So after that post-stream on Tuesday night is when Zicky Dice interview will debut. Here is the teaser for that. Enjoy it, guys. Where did you always have the character that you have now? So the Zicky Dice.
No, hell
Okay.
no. Hell no. Hell no. I wish we could bring up a picture. Like, I'll post it. It's somewhere along. But at first I came out like I wanted to be like, so I always had the name Zicky Dice, right? A stoner buddy of mine back in 2007. My name is Nick Zappo. Started calling me Zick because he's an idiot. So he switched the letters, but it stuck. So everyone started calling me Zick, and on the road with bands, that just evolved into Zicky because people just had one ad on whatever. I always had some dice in my pocket because we were always shooting dice. So boom, there it was, Zicky Dice. And at first I saw like this casino pit boss like type. So like I wore these like white suit pants, and like I had this big old beard and brown hair, and then like a singlet on under, and I ended up looking like a bootleg Bray Wyatt. And I was like, nah. So then I went from there to I wore a singlet once, and then I wore long tights, and it had like my name airbrushed on the back, and then I went to trunks, and then like I shaved off the beard, and then I started like having this vision, right? And then I pierced the ear, and I started growing a mullet out, and I started rocking my natural curly hair. These aren't natural, by the way. And then I was at the gym with a buddy of mine, 5:30 in the morning. We were clowning on some dude, which you shouldn't really do in retrospect, but hey, it's 5 in the morning. I got to do something to have some fun. And I said the word outlandish, and it came out just like that. And immediately a light bulb just ding. My brain, I try and explain this. My brain, I don't know if you've ever been to Disneyland or, but there's the ride Space Mountain where you go on the roller coaster and there's like stars shooting at your face extreme. That is my brain at all times with ideas, like constantly. I have a very creative mind. I think of life in sketches. I think I'm very easygoing until I'm disrespected, and then there's and that's a whole other story. But I started adding that into the character, and I started bringing out the bright colors and doing the working the way I wanted to, and following the wrestling that I grew up loving. And I was told many times that it wouldn't work in this day and age, especially like in the indies. But look who's laughing now.
That's awesome, man. I love the character because I'm an older guy, and I'm a big 80s crazy guy. I love the 80s, man, and I love all that stuff. Likewise. And I grew up with that wrestling too. So when I saw your character, I'm like, oh my gosh, this and like you had said, it really brought back memories of 80s wrestling for me.
And like with that, like I mixed in, I don't mean to cut you off, but like I mixed, that's a lot of myself, you see, like as cliche and corny as that sounds, but like I've been through a lot of trauma and bullshit, and like Outlandish Zicky Dice is just like this alter ego that I get to, I get to escape the world with and believe that I'm him. And the thing that's awesome about it is I all this traveling I've done, I looked around and I said, what's going to make me different? What's going to make me stand out? And that's what I thrive for every single time, every show, every performance. And, I've still got a lot of tricks under my sleeve that I haven't revealed yet. So best way, just gotta keep watching.
Oh,
that's
man,
right.
Definitely. I can't wait to see what's coming next. What did you bring over from the music business to your persona?
Oh man, the connection with the crowd.
Okay.
How to connect, and I'll tell you what, that gave me a head start above everybody, and I still think that I can connect in some of the big names that you see today. That's it. Is the connection, how to connect, whether I get booed or cheered. I'm very good at doing both.
Did you always want to play a heel, or did you ever do face? Have you gone back?
I did, and I have here and there. I prefer, it's funny, like true story here. I first match, I wasn't told heel or face, and I was just told to, go over dirty and do this. And I came back, and Billy Corgan's like, dude, he's like, you were supposed to be my top baby face. And I was like, oh, and he's like, I swear, and I was like brand new day one. That's the first thing the boss says to me. I'm like, oh, I like stop in my tracks. He's like, but God damn it, I can't ignore that reaction. He's like, let's go. And I was like, but when I walk in, if you watch the first episode back where I debut, they're quiet. By the end, the whole crowd is booing me. Everyone in that damn arena, and the crowd there will decide if you stay or go, like straight up.
Yep.
They're very diehard NWA fans, and I love having them hate me.
All right, we are back. We hope you enjoyed that teaser for the Outlandish one, man. Again, we had a great time with that interview, and we're gonna just go right back to that topic a little bit. And from the first part of the show, which obviously was about the cuts. We're not going to look so much at the cuts, but the ramifications on WWE. And I put this poll out to you guys as well. After the releases, and probably today, and possibly to come, which thankfully we didn't get much more. We only got a couple from NXT. Not to say that we're any less worse, but we didn't get much more than that. So let's hope that that's finished. Does WWE survive as we currently know it after the next few years? Now we know that WWE's had a rough go of it, man. The stocks fell. They had to release some execs and some flip around some salaries and stuff like that. So, does WWE get affected by this virus down the road? Now, this was close, and I'm surprised it was as close as it is, because you guys in the community you guys are really WWE fans. And does it survive as we currently know it? I said, no question, it survives. I said, not sure, and then I wrote, it's in serious trouble. This was super close. 39% said, no question, it survives. 33% said you weren't sure. And then 28% said it's in serious trouble. Jeff, does WWE come back from this?
From a PR standpoint, I think that it's going to take some time. I think as a company, they will survive, but I think if we're looking ahead 3 to 5 years, I think the landscape of WWE changes drastically. And I don't want to harp on Vince. I don't want to enough people do that already. But what I will say is this, hopefully they can bring some real positive change out of a tragic situation. And what I mean by that is this is a time for them to kind of hit the reset button, especially from a creative standpoint and how they're operating their business, the amount of wrestlers that they have on the roster. If they can use this time to really focus on the men and women that are on their rosters and give them some adequate time on television, through matches, additional content, I think that's what the WWE needs to do. I think, they've been around for far too long, I think, for them to just fizzle out. I do think that they make it in the end, but I do think that it's going to be some major changes. I think, in terms of the talent, I don't think that they'll keep as much talent going forward as they have in the past. I think that for them, they really need to look at how they're structuring their shows. And, you have your 3 main shows. You have Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I want to see them do more with 205 Live and with Main Event. Do some different things where you can really spotlight talent that aren't your main people, but give them an opportunity to be out there. And I think that's been the downfall for WWE, is that they just stockpile talent. And someone made the comment earlier, well, it's to keep talent from AEW, and that's probably true, but what are you doing for these wrestlers in the meantime? I mean, you look at someone like Heath Slater, who I love Heath Slater. I think he's awesome. You look at someone like Zack Ryder, like EC3, I brought him up earlier. They deserve an opportunity to be out there in front of fans. So I think they should take a good hard look at how they've done things, and I think that they will. And the other thing that I'm going to say, and this is a prediction, I won't go Paul Heyman and say it's a spoiler, but it's a prediction. I believe that within the next 3 years, we will have someone else running the WWE, whether that's them selling the company to another, like a bigger company. I know a lot of people have said Disney. I don't think that'll happen. I think Fox is a more likely buyer for that company, but I do think that someone else will be running it. I think the smart money would say that Triple H probably needs to be the head of it, because if you look at what he's done with NXT, I think that's a blueprint for what the WWE can do with his other shows and different things. So that's my take on it, Joe. What about you?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think great points. Fox, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Fox is owned by Disney. So Disney owns so much stuff. And I think they made a deal a little bit ago, and I think they bought out all their movie studios and stuff like that. If I'm not mistaken, I think they own the channel too. So that it could be a possibility there. But yeah, great points, all great points there. Yeah, man, I agree with a lot of your points, and I think the community does too. And I'll get to your comments in a second. But yeah, I think this does change things. Like you were saying, it hurts them in a PR standpoint. And I agree with you. I think changes need to be made here. Like you were saying, with the talent who was going nowhere. I mean, Daze talks about, EC3 was stuck in catering. If that's true, my goodness, I mean, these guys are going to do this because it's their job. They've got to do it because they want to keep a paycheck and stuff. But, when you've got this talent, it's like, if you're not going to use these guys, let them go. And if you think that much about them, then what are you doing having a guy in catering? It just doesn't make any sense. So, look, yeah, I agree. And I do think there has to be a little bit of a shakeup up at the top. Again, I've said this before. I think Vince is a legend. Vince is a legend for what he did for wrestling. No question about it. There would be no wrestling if it weren't for Vince McMahon and the McMahon family, without a doubt. What they did in the 80s, what they did in the 90s, what they're still kind of doing today with the cinematic matches we just had. He's a legend, but I think it might be time for someone else. And like you said, whether it's Triple H, somebody with maybe a little bit of a different vision, a different look. I agree that something has to change, and I think it definitely will. Let me just get a couple of your comments in on this survey. Jody Gilly wrote, I guarantee all the lost talent combined make less than Brock did last year. Want an easy fix, cut the dead weight that makes the most. Brock makes $10 million a year and is hardly ever there. We talked about that earlier and said that, listen, these guys are draws. So you can't just say goodbye to the big draws and the guys that draw the crowds in and get money. But that, Jody's opinion, Jody's point, I don't think you can, and Kofi actually responded, I don't think you can just cut him. He's got a very different contract with different terms, which is probably true. We have Steve Schofield writes, I think this is a hugely bad step ethically. I don't think that people will forget this in a hurry. I honestly can see them struggling to get back to acceptable numbers after this. I don't think that they will be the go-to company for talent anymore. Good points. Monica King writes, not sure. Will fans want to stay after the superstars they love been let go? Will people who go to shows that can't still want to tune in at home, depending on when the virus goes away? Who knows what happens in the future? I really hope WWE survives these bad times. Just my thoughts. Absolutely, Monica. James Chadwick writes, when this virus is over, hopefully they sign a load of them back. We all hope that. Moda, shout out to Moda. He writes, sucks that this is happening. Sometimes in life, that's all you can say. I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen going forward, but if they keep key talents across the board, they should be okay. However, I hope once this is all over, they can focus on getting people their jobs back, whether that's with WWE or given their release so they can go somewhere else to earn a living. Great point. Mateo Kokic, this doesn't make a difference. As long as Vince is still in charge, the company is not going anywhere. I'm sorry to say that, but that's just my opinion on this, regardless of the release, in which it still doesn't feel right to do that. By the way, rest in peace, the great Fink. Yes, we'd be remiss, Jeff, if we did not say rest in peace to the greatest wrestling announcer, PA announcer that ever was during my lifetime. I'm sure during Jeff's lifetime as well. So again, another piece of sad news with the passing of the Fink. Just a tremendous announcer. So. Yeah, man. I think that this is definitely gonna change the landscape. Look, guys, we'd be remiss to say that the whole virus thing is not going to change the world, right? There is so much that's going to be different when this goes away. And for everyday life, how long do we wear masks to stores? How long do we stay away from gatherings? Not just wrestling, but you're not going to have fans allowed at these events probably for a good time to come. They just can't risk it because you don't know what this virus, and until there is an inoculation and a vaccine, unfortunately, you just can't let these big crowds gather. So there's not going to be any baseball games, any football games and stuff like that unless they play in front of no fans. And I think that's going to go on for, who knows. But this has changed the world, guys. There's no question about that. And it's changed the wrestling world as well. So. So with that said, listen, that's the end of that story. We're going to move on here. We're going to go on to a fun little segment and keep the rest of the show as positive as we can. We have got Mr. Adam Rotella, and Adam joins us every week now for his 6 minutes and 5 seconds of NWA content. He's going to come on right now. And then he sticks around with Jeff and I, and we do a Q&A. So you guys sent us in a question. We got a question from Swamp Manor that we answered for him in the podcast this week. So Jeff and I and Adam talk about that after his segment. So enjoy the Adam segment and enjoy that little Q&A, and we will be right back right after that. All right, everybody, our next segment that we are proud to have on our show every week is Mr. Adam Rotella, and he is here with us for his 6 minutes and 5 seconds of NWA segment. So, Adam, welcome again to our show, man. We really appreciate you coming on. And, man, what is up with the NWA? Take it away.
Well, hi there, gentlemen. It's always great to be here with you guys. I had a lot of fun last week. I actually think I hit the 6:05 minute mark right on the dot last time.
Right on the button.
I was really happy about that. But, this week, I think that everything in wrestling is at a standstill, right, gentlemen? So yes, this last Sunday, we just watched the repeat of the Crockett Cup that the NWA did. And I got to tell you guys, I'm not really sure what content the NWA is going to put out next. Now, that can be good, right? And that can be bad because, first of all, it's good because we don't know what's going to happen. We know on Tuesday, we are seeing the dark match where we are seeing Camille's very first match that she has ever had inside the NWA arena. So we do have that to look forward to. But not only that, we are going to hear Camille speak for the very first time. And I got to ask you guys, what do you think she's going to sound like?
Oh, man. That's an interesting question, man. Oh, man. How about one word? Menacing, I think, is a good word. I think menacing is what she's going to sound like. Man, I would not want to mess with Camille at all, and I cannot wait to see her wrestle her first match. I am excited to see what that's going to be, and maybe that's going to be Thunder Rosa. Who knows?
Yeah, man, yeah. We do not know what that's going to be. What I think that Camille might sound like is, those Muppets that went ma-ma-ma-na, da-da-da-da-da, ma-na-na-na, da-da-da-da. I think that we have that to look forward to from Camille. But also, once that airs on Tuesday, the NWA, I have no idea what's coming next. And David Lagana, our NWA vice president, has actually said just recently that the NWA is not planning on running any more shows without there being an audience. And I have to actually agree with Mr. Lagana because that audience has become a vital member of the NWA arena and a vital member of what the NWA is evolving into. Without that audience, you are not going to have that same back and forth that the wrestlers have at that podium. Without that audience, there's no one for the wrestlers to work off of. And I think that that's one of the things that makes NWA so original from all the other wrestling content that's out there. So to end this segment right here, my friends, we're going to end it on a cliffhanger because I don't know what the NWA is doing anymore. And I'm really hoping that they bring back 10 pounds of gold. They bring back some documentary footage, or we go back to what we were doing, watching old wrestling from Houston. That was fun, but we got to produce new content to stay in the minds of the wrestling fan, especially during this time.
Yeah, that's a very good, very great thought there, Adam. I would agree with you. I like the content they were putting out there, and I love the thing from Houston with Andre the Giant. And yeah, I mean, we had an outlandish interview last night with Mr. Zicky Dice, and he kind of said the same thing about the audience in the studio, and said that it is unbelievable to walk out to that crowd. So I agree with you. I think it's really tough to not have that crowd there. So Mr. Lagana is probably making a very good decision, I would imagine, with that.
Well, man, it's not just the crowd. It's this. The NWA is funded by William Patrick Corgan. It's being funded by only one guy. So to use our resources right now to run empty arena shows just doesn't make sense for the ultimate goal of the NWA. Again, the NWA is going to ask for our patience. They're going to ask for our time. And I'm willing to give the NWA that because I know eventually Powerr will return. And hey, being dark for a little while right now is not a bad thing. Let's come back with a vengeance and let's really take the wrestling world by storm, especially now that there's a lot more wrestlers available. There's a lot more talent. The wrestling economy has balanced out a little bit. Who knows what's going to happen in a couple weeks or a couple months?
Very true. Very true. And as we mentioned earlier in our show today, obviously we led off the show talking about those cuts and things like that, and Adam probably alluding to that. So absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, hey, thank you for that segment again. And Adam's going to stick around with us here. So we have a couple of questions that came from the community. So again, we like to do these little new things that the community gives us. Love to do that for you guys. And we did get a couple questions, some general wrestling questions, and he's good enough to stick around with us. We're calling this the J&J Q&A. So J&J Q&A, we got a couple of, there we go.
Love it.
Needed that.
It's a great name, man. It's a great name.
So let's start off. This one is from Swamp Manor. Thank you, Swamp Manor, for the question. And he asks, Insider's Days, I have a question for the podcast. What is the most iconic wrestling moment of all time in your opinions? So, Adam, since you are the guest, start off with you, man. What is the most iconic wrestling moment in your opinion?
Okay, I'm going to give you guys two just because I'm afraid that some of us might have the same exact one. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking Rock and Hollywood Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania, whatever the hell that was, when the crowd went absolutely nuts for Hulk Hogan. It was, I believe it was in Toronto. It was in Canada. And these guys just started looking at each other, and the whole place got on their feet, erupted, and really started to cheer Hulk Hogan, who at the time was a heel. But man, that's a moment that every single wrestler talks about. That's a moment that you just ache for to be able to give an audience, to make an audience react like that. That's what I'm talking about. And let me give you one more. And this one, we're going to go back in the time machine a little bit, but I'm going to say Miss Elizabeth on the shoulder of Macho Man. And there's that girl in the front row who's crying because Macho Man and Elizabeth are finally back together. My man, dude, that's pro wrestling right there, my friends.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Great job, man. Awesome choices, both. What do you think, Jeff?
This is a really good question. I'm going to, like Adam, I have two. I'm going to start out with one that is a lot older, back in the NWA days. And that's the time limit draw between Ric Flair and Sting.
Ooh.
That match, what it did for Sting was it put him at a spot where automatically when that match was done, he was so over, and that afforded him the opportunity to kind of skyrocket to the place that he ended up. And I mean, that's, now we call him the icon and the franchise, and that match did a lot for building that foundation for Sting to get to that point. The second is going to involve Hulk Hogan again, and it is when he turned heel at Bash at the Beach.
Yeah,
that
man.
that moment, oh my goodness, that moment, it changed wrestling, because for those of us that are old enough to remember Hulk Hogan, he was the ultimate babyface. I mean, from day one, he not necessarily day one, but I mean, for most people that remember, he was the ultimate babyface. And for him to get through that, to turn heel and basically turn his back on all the fans and join the Outsiders and all of that, it was just such an iconic moment. And I just keep thinking back to him cutting that promo and talking about they're the new world order of wrestling, and all the stuff that the fans were throwing into the ring. If anyone wants to know what heel heat looks like, that's it right there.
Yep. Yeah, man, that was absolutely a huge moment. I'm going to go back probably a little further. And again, this one for me, I think is more of a personal one, because I grew up watching Andre the Giant from when I was about 7, 8 years old, in the late 70s and through the 80s. And Andre, for me, was obviously he was always a face, and he was it was such a big personality, and you never saw him lose matches, and he was always the good guy with the smile on his face. So when I saw him on Piper's Pit and he ripped off the necklace of Hulk Hogan, and you knew that he had turned, again, just a shocking thing for me as a fan back then. I was probably maybe 13, 14 years old. So, again, that was back when in the glory days of the 80s. And when I saw that happen, it was just shock. I just could not believe that Andre would ever become a heel. And then obviously going on to the WrestleMania 3 match, when Hulk Hogan slammed Andre the Giant. And now you know the backstory, and what was going on and how sick Andre was, but you also know that Andre had picked Hulk Hogan to pass that torch to him. Those are really the biggest ones for me, and the most iconic ones for me. And I know, it's one that a lot of people probably choose. In fact, I think a couple comments from the community I've got here for this question. We have Mike Lister, who said Hogan face-to-face with Andre is definitely iconic, but for me, I think Sting debuting in WWE and interrupts Triple H and points to the Mania sign is more iconic, as no one ever thought Sting would ever come to WWE. So some different opinion. Rusty Shackelford says so many, and that's it. Then he couldn't even name one. He said there's too many to name. Yowie Wowie says Mankind falling from the top of the cell.
That's a good one.
Obviously a huge one. Eric Derigi says the Friday night main event where Hogan lost the title. It was a true paradigm shift. PB Green has the Andre Hogan match pictured. He said, of course, Andre Hogan, but mine, Stone Cold, and Bret Hart at WrestleMania. So those are the comments.
The double turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many great moments, man. And
let's not forget Fandango's debut.
Yes, who can forget that?
Who can forget that? Oh, and I have another honorable mention.
Go right ahead.
When Shane McMahon showed up on Nitro.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah, okay.
That was a time where the complete landscape of wrestling just absolutely changed, and you went from having two companies, battling head to head, to Vince McMahon winning that battle and buying his competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a little scared there, Jeff. I thought you were going to say when Shane came out with the Mean Street Posse.
Iconic still, my friends. Iconic still.
I was getting a little nervous for a second there.
Nah.
Oh, man. So good. So good. Love it, man. Love it. Hey, that was awesome. And again, Adam, thank you so much for doing the NWA segment every week. We really look forward to doing that with you and hearing about NWA, obviously, as it goes on and what's happening out there. And thanks for sticking around for the answers to that question. I know they are going to be, Swamp's going to be very happy we got that on there. I know he sent that to me a little bit ago. So thank you for doing that, man. And thanks for coming on with us.
Hey guys, not a problem. Always a pleasure. You guys know I have nothing but time for the Daze community. Please find me on Twitter. Everybody that's listening at Adam_Rotella, Rotella. Find my YouTube page, 10 Pounds of Podcast. Just look up NWA Podcast. I have blanketed the YouTube space. You will only find me. I can't wait to talk to you guys more about the NWA. I know Daze is very passionate about the NWA, and I can't wait for the NWA to be back with more power. And I'll be back next week, gentlemen. Have a great time tonight, guys.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
No problem. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Welcome back, everyone. Jeff and I had a blast with Adam on that, man. We had fun. Talked about, Adam mentioned Fandango, and and I talked about the Mean Street Posse. So, yeah, you know what? A little bit of fun. We got to get back to a little bit of fun. And again, I hope you enjoyed that segment. Adam is nice enough to be with us, and he's going to be with us every single week on our show. So, up next, guys, we have another teaser for you for another tremendous interview. I can't say enough about this one, and I know Jeff will echo my thoughts. So just going a little bit of backstory with this. Brandi Smith is a member of Daze community, and she's been in the community for a long time, longer than Jeff and I have. And she got in touch with us through YouTube and had said that she's blind and she cannot watch wrestling, obviously, so she relies on the Daze community and Daze's reaction videos, watch-alongs to give her the ability to know what's going on. And I thought that was fantastic. She also gave us some compliments, which was tremendous. And I reached out to Brandi, and I got a hold of her, thankfully, through YouTube. She does not have a Twitter account, so and she messaged us back, and she was good enough to join us on an interview. And boy, oh boy, we love this interview. Jeff, I had a fantastic time talking to Brandi. We just talked wrestling for an hour and got such a different perspective. You know, when you hear things like this, it's just, I told her, I said, it was such a compliment to me, and I'm sure it was to Jeff as well, hearing from her and hearing her amazing thoughts about us and the community. So Jeff, man, I know you love talking to Brandi as well.
Yeah, we had a great time, and like you said, it really, interviews like that, comments like she made to us on YouTube really put things into perspective. And you know, for her to use us in terms of, you know, listening to describe things for her and for others out there, it's really humbling. I mean, I think we were both humbled by her comments and the fact that she came on, and, you know, yeah, we talked wrestling, we talked Southern cuisine.
They did, and they all told me that I eat the wrong kind of cornbread, and I have to try grits. So yes, Brandi, if you're listening, I promise that I will try the real Southern cornbread, and I will try grits at one point in my life. So
yes,
if you're listening, I hope you know that. Yes.
Yeah, we've got to get you that, and we've got to get you some real Southern sweet tea.
All right. Oh, yes, that's right.
So,
she mentioned that as well.
Yeah.
I only get the McDonald's stuff, man, and I know that is not real sweet tea. My daughter actually told me that. So, but yeah, man, it was.
We had a great time with Brandi.
It was really a tremendous interview. And listen, I hope you guys listen to this. Again, gives you just a different perspective, right? Sometimes in life we need to get a little bit of a different perspective from folks. And I hope you enjoy this teaser with Brandi. And the interview with Brandi will be coming up a little bit later this week. We will get that exact date out for you as well for that. Probably looking at it, probably going to be later in the week. Looking maybe Friday before SmackDown. I think that's where it's going to be, but we'll come at you with that exact date for this. So enjoy this teaser, and we will come back, and we're going to get into that community time, folks. It's going to be community shoot time when we come back. So enjoy the teaser, guys. Again, I think we were talking a little bit before we started the show. So tell everybody what was the biggest impact match maybe that you saw early on when you first started being a wrestling fan. What was the first match that you really remember that stood out for you?
The first thing I can remember, and I was born in 82, so WrestleMania 5 was 89. So I was 7 years old, and that year for Christmas, I was one of the triplets, and so Christmas at our house, we had to share a lot, and so a present to all of us was the 2 cassette of WrestleMania 5. And I think eventually we broke those tapes. And that got me into it. And then once, I guess, wrestling started to be more syndicated, I remember Brother Love. And now, I absolutely love Bruce Pritchard, but when I was a kid, he scared me. and then, that absolutely iconic moment where Hulk is on the Brother Love show, and then Earthquake just, flattens him. And, WWE was trying to get you to do this write-in campaign. Let Hulk know, how much you get. I remember doing that.
Yeah. Oh, the good old days of wrestling, man. The good old days of wrestling. I loved all those characters. I loved the Saturday night's main events. I loved all that stuff. Hurricane and what was it? Tugboat was the other one, weren't they?
Tugboat. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, so many amazingly and it was so 80s because it was the amazing. They were also colorful characters, and so really overblown characters. I mean, you don't see that much anymore. Some people will really go over and above what what they could do, but you really don't. That's kind of a lost thing, so you don't see that all that much. And yeah, it was a really great time for that. So WrestleMania 5. So you wore the cassette out. I've done that. I can totally I can see where you're coming from. Totally hear that. I've done that many times. Who was? And I know you said Hulk Hogan, Mick Foley. Who's your favorite wrestler now? Who do you really think is doing a great job now?
Mick Foley's still my all-time. Right now, I love Taker. He's on my Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
But as far as kind of newer talent, I love Randy because I love his theme song. I wish it could be my ringtone. And
the Voices song, you mean?
Yes, just because of what I do for a living.
Oh.
I love it. And I got really excited when Shinsuke came in. And I wish he was doing more, from the beginning. I really love him. And I love a lot of the women. I know Ronda's pretty controversial right now, but I think she genuinely has a love for wrestling.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. I would agree. I know Jeff and we were talking about the whole Ronda controversy. What's your take on that? We talked about this on our podcast episode a couple days ago. Go ahead.
I heard. I think it's a combination of a work and a shoot.
Yep.
She's such a perfectionist. I got that from the Total Divas last season. That's another wicked pleasure of mine. But, I just, I got that she was such a perfectionist, but she was so genuine in wanting to do something good for the business, I felt like. So, you know, and the match with Becky was just, you know, I couldn't even see it, and I thought it was fantastic.
All right, man. I hope you enjoyed the teaser for that Brandi interview, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Really, really had a great time with that. One thing before the community shoot I want to go over is we had, and this is kind of breaking news, so this kind of broke when we were recording today, the highest paid stars in the WWE. Now, you kind of knew that this was coming because whenever something happens where you get salary cuts, and this happens all the time in the NFL and so on and so forth, you see this list come out. And it's the highest paid stars revealed after 26 wrestlers were cut to save money. Not 26 wrestlers, but the highest paid wrestlers. So just going to go over this real quick, the list with you guys, and then I'll have Jeff kind of react to it. I know I had a couple surprises on here, and I think my surprise was number 10 was Braun Strowman. I'm not going to read the amounts, just going to give the wrestler names. You guys want to read it, it's on our Twitter page. Braun Strowman was number 10. Number 9 was Stephanie McMahon. Number 8 was Shane McMahon. Number 7 was Goldberg. We know that. Got you guys comments on that. 6 is Becky Lynch. Number 5, and these are going from least amount to most amount. 5 is Triple H. Number 4 is Seth Rollins. Number 3 is Randy Orton. Number 2 is Roman Reigns. And number 1, by quite a margin, is Brock Lesnar. So now look, my quick reaction to this, and I'll hand it over to Jeff. The McMahons, I'm not even going to count those because, look, they're the CEOs of the company. They're the vice presidents of the company. Triple H, same thing. So Stephanie, Shane, and Triple H, yeah, it is what it is. They're in charge. They're gonna get the bigger salary, so didn't shock me. My biggest shocker on this list was Braun Strowman, and that he's making more than Bray Wyatt. Their big merch guy is making less than Braun, and the only way I could see that is because maybe Bray was gone for a while, and Strowman had remained, so maybe that was part of it. But Goldberg didn't surprise me. The Lesnar thing I knew about. We all know that Becky's is such a big superstar. So again, Becky, Seth, and Roman really didn't surprise me either. Randy Orton might have surprised me a little bit. I didn't know he was up there that far. I would say he could probably get more money. But what surprised you on that list, Jeff, if anything?
Goldberg being in the top 10.
Okay.
Number 1. The fact that we don't have Charlotte Flair in the top 10. Because I think Becky is obviously, I think, at a different level in terms of popularity, but I think in terms of overall value to the company, I can't stress enough how important Charlotte is. But yeah, I think I agree. Braun Strowman being in the top 10 and, being ahead of someone like Bray, and we obviously don't know. I don't know when they signed their contract, so it could be a matter of Braun's contract was up, and they just happened. He happened to negotiate his deal before Bray. I can tell you this: once Bray's contract is up, I think that list changes dramatically.
Oh, I agree.
Because what he's done for the company, I'll just say it like this. Bray Wyatt has been the biggest attraction for the WWE for almost a year now.
Yep.
And that has to be rewarded at some point.
Yeah.
Again, like you, I don't factor in the McMahons and Triple H with that because, they're the CEOs.
Yep.
I think it's interesting that we don't see Vince's name on that list.
Oh yeah.
So, but at the same time, I see, I don't really count them. What I'll say about Brock is, a lot of people have said, he's making $10 million a year and, that's way too much. You got to think about Brock Lesnar as the draw. Mm-hmm. He was a UFC heavyweight champion.
Yep.
What he's done, people dislike Brock, but what he's done for other talent in terms of putting guys over And, you know, the reaction that he gets, I mean, he's doing what he's doing to get people to react the exact way that they're reacting. They don't like him. But at the same time, you know, just taking that salary, to kind of go back to what we were talking about a little bit, but if you take his salary and you break it down, that doesn't get you to that $4 million a month threshold that you need. So it's not like he's making $1 million a month.
Right.
So, you know, I understand that, but yeah, I mean, Goldberg should be a thing of the past at this point. And it's no disrespect to him, but I mean, he's had his time. You know, it's time for him to kind of ride off into the sunset.
Yeah, I would agree. And yeah, you're right about Brock. I think he gets a really bad, I learned some things, and I knew about Brock. Obviously, I've been watching all through his career, but if you watch the Ruthless Aggression, you'll see the whole story with Brock, and you'll see about when he left and then when he came back, and they still talk about, look, the reaction he gets when that music hits. Look, he is a big draw, and no matter, look, and now he just put over Drew McIntyre. So you can't necessarily say, yeah, I get it. He's a part-time guy. He's not there week to week. I get all that. I really do. But he has put some guys over, and, you know, look, he put Seth over as well now, and now Drew. So yeah, look, it's WWE is not going to be a better show when he's gone. They're just not, and that's how you have to look at that.
Right.
So yeah, go ahead.
And I want to throw in one other thing about Brock. If anyone out there who strongly dislikes him wants to maybe entertain the idea of having their mind changed, look no further than the Raw episode where Drew McIntyre came out and I think hit him with about 3 or 4 Claymore kicks. And they get up to the top of the ramp, and Drew hits him with another one, and he's standing over Brock. And Brock tells him, he tries to do it in a way that the cameras don't pick it up, but it kind of does. He tells Drew, hey, grab the belt and hold it up. Because in that moment, he's trying to put Drew over.
Yep.
He's trying to get him the reaction that he needs to have. So, you know, you can say all you want to about him being a part-timer, and I get that, and, you know, I respect that opinion, but he does so many different things that a lot of us don't know about. And I mean, that's just one thing. We don't know about the stuff behind the scenes that only he and the other wrestlers know about. But, you know, I think he kind of gets a Raw deal from time to time.
Yeah, I agree, man. I definitely agree. And listen, we're going to, again, like I said, years down the road when he's retired, the thing you got to ask yourself is it going to be a better place when he's gone? And I can't say that it is. I mean, sometimes when people leave, you kind of regret that they left. And, you know, now granted, he might leave and then come back after a couple of years just for an appearance or two like John Cena does. But, you know, yeah, he's a once-in-a-lifetime generational talent. They said that on that Ruthless Aggression show, and I absolutely agree with that.
Yep.
All right, guys, now it is time for the community shoot, and we're coming to the end of our show as we always do. And let's start right off with a collection. And we have Liam Costa. Liam sent us his collection. I know he's a big fan of Daze, and he got his picture taken with Daze at an event. And he's got some shelves of things here. He's got some Elite figures there, and Triple H, Shawn Michaels on the top shelf I can see. And then he's got an Ultimate Warrior, Hogan, Undertaker, Kane. Looks like Matt or Jeff Hardy. I can't be sure there. And then he's got some pop vinyls on the bottom. So Liam Costa, thank you. Shout out to you, buddy, for sending us your collection. And again, guys, send those collections in. We love to see what you guys have in the way of merch. And we also have our artistic stuff coming, art bombs, like Sonny used to call them, or Sonny calls them. We've got some art stuff. This one is fantastic. We have this one. This came in today from Andrew Rex. Shout out to Andrew. And he says here, he says, hi, buddy. Hope you are well. Don't know if you remember my daughter making a championship belt for Mother's Day. Well, this is her latest one. What amazes me is it's painted with nail varnish. Wow.
Mhm.
In this awful week for wrestling, thought this was a bit of sunshine. This is a fantastic job. Shout out to Andrew Rex, and shout out to his daughter that made this. She made a Firefly Funhouse braid belt, which looks amazing. She did this with nail varnish. It looks like cardboard. Has the Funhouse logo painted on the front with a little hurt
Wow.
and heel there. Next to it has a Ramblin' Rabbit picture and the Fiend plate. Remember the paper
Yep.
plate with the Fiend face? She has Sociopath painted on it, and then a picture of Funhouse Bray and a picture of the Muscle Man logo. Man, tremendous job. Excellent job, man. And again, I told Andrew I was going to include it. Send these things out to us, guys, because this is fantastic stuff. Also, Brittany K, we had some art from her in last week's show. She has a couple more pictures of Bray. Looks like a cult leader Bray from the Firefly Funhouse match that she has. And she also has a really cool picture of Bray as well. And we're going to drop some more of those art bombs as well. We still have some stuff left from Sunny. We're going to have stuff from Sunny for the next 2 years.
Yes.
So just enjoy the Sunny Wolf pictures as well, tagged at the end. And again, Jesse Callan as well. Jesse, you can, and I know somebody asked us in our last podcast, does Jesse still do the commission pieces? She does. So hit her up on her Twitter if you like any of the pieces from Jesse as well. She did some great Fiend drawings. So as always, guys, listen, shout out to you guys again. You played a big part in this show, as you always do. Some Q&A stuff. And again, send us those Q&A questions. We love those. We call that the JJ Q&A, just like we have the JJ's hot topic of the week. So it's a JJ Q&A this week. Send us the Q&As, man. We love doing those, and we can bring Adam in a little bit on those. And who knows, maybe somebody we interview down the road, we'll throw that question to them too. Send us those Q&As. Send us your wrestling collection. Send us the picks. Look, keep sending us these ideas as well. Let us know. And again, before we go, a couple things I just want to let you know, and I'll have Jeff say goodbye to you guys also in there. Our schedule is now static. Going forward now, the podcast that you're listening to will be every Monday after the Raw stream at 11:15. Some of them might run a little later, so I know a lot of you guys have to, you're late. It's a little bit later in the UK, but we're glad that you're joining us for that. We also are going to have the Abby's window change is going to be on Wednesdays prior to the AEW and NXT stream every week. We recorded the version of Abby's window a couple days ago. We're going to try to do that as a reaction to SmackDown. And then we will try to have the interviews after NXT and AEW on Wednesdays with the community. So community interviews should be in place on Wednesday. Now this week, every now and then we'll change the interviews up a bit as we get them. So obviously when we get wrestlers and we get guys like Gary on board, we will get those out to you ASAP, because we know those guys were nice enough to share their time with us. So we want to do that. This week we have Zicky Dice, like I said, after NWA on Tuesday, so tomorrow night. And then we will have the Brandi interview, which we mentioned. That is going to be before SmackDown this week at 6 p.m. Before the Daze stream. And then we're also going to have Gary part 2 for you as well, and that will be Wednesday night after AEW and NXT. So again, guys, great being with you. Thank you for all of the things that you send in to us, and thanks to the people who are interviewing with us. We have community members coming up this week that we're going to talk to as well. Jeff, man, what are your last thoughts for this week?
So I have a bit of of breaking news as well. For everyone that continues to support us, and we really appreciate all of you and all the comments and positive feedback. We really appreciate it. So we figured, why not have some way to show your support? So we are in the process right now of having t-shirts printed, and they are going to go on sale in a couple weeks. The price for the t-shirts, and they'll have our logo on them. The price for the t-shirts will be $24.99, and that includes shipping. So no matter if you're right down the road from me in South Carolina, or if you're in the UK, $24.99 for the shirts. If you would like to pre-order a shirt, send us an email, or you can DM myself or Joe and just tell us what size shirt you'd like to have and your address, and we will more than happily get that out to you. We should have the shirts available within the next 2 weeks. I will let everyone know when they're ready, but we at least want to get some pre-orders out there, so just in case anyone wants to hop on it right now and go ahead and get your order in, we will be more than happy to take that. But honestly, it's giving us an opportunity to have our podcast, and when I say our, I mean the community as a whole, advertised. And what better way to do it than wearing a t-shirt that has the logo on there? So that's my bit of news for everyone. But again, thank you all so much for supporting us and being understanding when we've had to make changes to the schedule and different things of that nature. We love you guys and care about you, and again, thank you for being with us on this journey. And we're excited.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. We have so much cool stuff coming for you guys down the road too. We have Mr. Koloff decided to come back with us and talk more. We're going to ask him about more, the modern wrestling and what he thinks about today's wrestlers and that kind of thing. We've got such cool stuff coming up, guys. There are some things that I can't even talk about. Surprises, obviously, down the road, and I can't even mention those things. So listen, tune in, and like I said at the beginning, like and subscribe to our channel if you have not done that already. And thank you guys for joining us so much. We will talk to you next Monday. Take care, everybody, and have a great week.